Well, hello, welcome to Walking Through Acts, episode number 36. And the location where the reading will resume is Acts chapter 23 in the Bible. Acts chapter 23. I'll give you a moment, as usual, to locate that if you wish to read along with me. You're welcome. Acts chapter 23. When we left off last time, and it was rather abrupt, when I say abrupt, the time ran out and I had not much time at all to comment. So let me just do that as a bit of a brief review and a preview leading into the continued reading. Paul has been arrested. He was arrested initially, at least, to prevent maybe being killed by a crowd of people in Jerusalem. They had mistakenly accused him, thought of him wrongly, false accusations and prejudices against him led to basically getting out of hand, and he was arrested or rescued from that danger by the authorities and taken into the barracks. On the barrack stairs, Paul had asked, "Can I speak to the crowd?" and he was permitted to do so. At the end of his speech, or when it was finally cut off by the crowd, they go on inside and they're going to scourge him or interrogate him or whip him to try to torture him to get him to reveal some things about what's going on here that the authorities might have something to go on. And Paul pulls, I in my own slang kind of way, pulled out his trump card. I'm a Roman citizen. Now he does do that on occasion, and sometimes not. Sometimes he does it before, sometimes he does it after, but he does do it occasionally. I've commented on that in previous episodes, so I won't go any more into that. And so that's where we are. He's not going to be tortured to find out. But the man, let me just read the last verse 30. The next day, because he wanted to know for certain why he was accused by the Jews, he released him from his bonds and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Paul down and set him before them. And so that's where we left off. So let's just continue on now that I've said that. Chapter 23, verse 1. Then Paul, looking earnestly at the council, said, "Men and brethren, I've lived in all good conscience before God until this day." And the high priest Ananias commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, "God will strike you, you whitewashed wall, for you sit to judge me according to the law, and do you command me to be struck contrary to the law?" And those who stood by said, "Do you revile God's high priest?" Then Paul said, "I did not know, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, you shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people." But when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, "Men and brethren, I'm a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Concerning the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am being judged." And when he had said this, a dissension arose between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For Sadducees say there is no resurrection, and no angel or spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. Then there arose a loud outcry, and the scribes of the Pharisees' party arose and protested, saying, "We find no evil in this man. But if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him, let us not fight against God." Now, when there arose a great dissension, the commander, fearing lest Paul might be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down, take him by force from among them, and bring him into the barracks. Let's stop there. The story continues, but let's just stop for a moment. Masterfully, Paul, perceiving, knowing that the people there were divided, we'd say denominationally or religiously among the Jews. There were sects, sects, sections, sects or denominations of the Jews. Two very prominently known ones were here represented: Sadducees and Pharisees. And he's in a not in a pickle, but he's in a very difficult place, Paul. And so he defends somewhat himself by splitting them. I'm a Pharisee. I was born of a Pharisee. It has to do with the resurrection, I think he says, that I'm being judged. Yes, hope of the resurrection of the dead, he says in verse number 6. And so there you go. Now they begin to divide in their thoughts about Paul because of that. It's a masterful stroke in controversy, I guess you might say. Well, I could go into it a little more, but I don't think I will. I think I'll just make this statement and read on. That he's rescued again. In this case, it's a rescue from not a mob outside, but in this case, some religious people inside, and they are gathered together in a hall, in a council place, building or whatever it's called. No, I don't know if it says a hall or not, but anyway, he's brought together in a place to appear. And so it's a similar kind of thing. It's just in a different, not a different location totally, but in a different kind of setting. Once again, Paul being rescued from being pulled apart and possibly even killed. Okay, verse 11. But the following night, the Lord stood by him, by Paul, and said, "Be of good cheer, Paul, for as you have testified for me in Jerusalem, so you must also bear witness at Rome." And when it was day, some of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. Now there were more than 40 who had formed this conspiracy. They came to the chief priests and elders and said, "We have bound ourselves under a great oath that we will eat nothing till we have killed Paul. Now you therefore, together with the council, suggest to the commander that he be brought down to you tomorrow, as though you were going to make further inquiries concerning him, but we're ready to kill him before he comes near." So when Paul's sister's son heard of their ambush, he went and entered the barracks and told Paul. Then Paul called one of the centurions to him and said, "Take this young man to the commander, for he has something to tell him." So he took him and brought him to the commander and said, "Paul the prisoner called me to him and asked me to bring this young man to you. He has something to say to you." Then the commander took him by the hand, went aside, and asked privately, "What is it that you have to tell me?" And he said, "The Jews have agreed to ask that you bring Paul down to the council tomorrow, as though they were going to inquire more fully about him. But do not yield to them, for more than 40 of them lie in wait for him, men who have bound themselves by an oath that they will neither eat nor drink till they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for the promise from you." So the commander let the young man depart and commanded him, "Tell no one that you have revealed these things to me." The story continues yet even more, but let's pause again. It's just amazing to me. Maybe I shouldn't be, having read the scriptures a number of times through the years, I shouldn't be any more amazed, but I still continue to be amazed that people with religious differences will not only disagree, not only be upset in disagreement, but they'll kill you. It's amazing to me. I want to think that people, especially in religious circles, wouldn't do such an immoral thing as that. But maybe I shouldn't be amazed. It goes all the way back to Cain and Abel. If you know that story, Adam and Eve's sons, Cain and Abel. Cain killed his brother, Abel, over a religious disagreement. So what else is new? Anyway, the Roman authorities aren't keen to have anybody in their protectorate or care or security lynched or assassinated or whatever. And it reflects badly on them in protection. And that's true even to this day. People who are incarcerated, they don't want people dying in prison and so forth. It happens, but they don't like that, of course. And so here we go. Here we go with a oath. I mean, these people are planning to do it soon, because they said we won't eat or drink till we've done it, meaning we're not planning over the next few months to have occasion for this. Do it, and do it soon. We're not eating till we get it done. And they conspire, make a request that you want to talk to Paul or about, and make further inquiry like was done previous, and he won't even get near you. We'll basically jump him step in and stab him. However they killed him, I don't know what their plan was, but he would be killed before he ever even got to that place for interrogation or inquiry. But Paul had a sister's son. It'd be like, it'd be nephew, young man, old enough to talk though. I mean, he's not a 2-year-old. Old enough, young man to he got wind of it somehow. Don't know how, but he got wind of it. Told Paul. Paul told a centurion. A centurion passed on the word to the head fella, the commander, and such like, that this was up. This was up. And the young man, in fact, it's interesting too. Luke, who's the writer here, quotes what the young man said in private. It says that he took him away in private to talk to him. This is in verse 13. The commander took him by the hand, went aside, and asked privately, "What is it that you have to tell me?" And so, by inspiration, who's behind closed walls in private to know what the young man exactly said verbatim? Well, of course, the Holy Spirit. All right, the story carries on, so let's keep going too. Verse 23, yes. And he called for two, this would be the commander, he called for 2 centurions, saying, "Prepare 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen to go to Caesarea," that's a city by the Mediterranean, "at the 3rd hour of the night. And provide mounts," that be horses, "provide mounts to set Paul on, and bring him safely to Felix the governor." He wrote a letter in the following manner: "Claudius Lysias, to the most excellent governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by the Jews, and was about to be killed by them. Coming with the troops, I rescued him, having learned that he was a Roman. And when I wanted to know the reason they accused him, I brought him before the council. I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their law, but had nothing charged against him deserving of death or chains. And when it was told me that the Jews lay in wait for the man, I sent him immediately to you, and also commanded the accusers to state before you the charges against him. Farewell." Okay, we'll read the last little bit in just a moment, but just stop. One thing jumps out to me is how you spin things in a very favorable way, oftentimes, do we not? And the Claudius Lysias may be a very fine fella in many respects, so I'm not saying he's just a real terrible guy, but he puts in there that I found out that he was a Roman, I came and rescued him. That was not the way it went down. He found out later that he was Roman, but anyway, that's putting a good spin on it, I guess you might say. Anyway, he sends him to the coast. I mean, he sends with a big group of trying it, if at all possible, do not let these men kill Paul. And he not overdid it, but he made sure that he sent a whole lot of security, and down to the coast in the middle of the night, and go down to Caesarea and deliver him to the governor down there at this Roman outpost, you might say, in Caesarea. And he sent this letter basically explaining why. Okay, I see our time's about gone, but I think we got just enough time to briefly wrap up the chapter. 31 is the verse number. "Then the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. The next day they left the horsemen to go on with him and returned to the barracks. When they came to Caesarea and had delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Paul to him. And when the governor had read it, he asked what province he was from. When he understood that he was from Cilicia, he said, 'I will hear you when your accusers also have come.' And he commanded him to be kept in Herod's praetorium." So he remains incarcerated. He's not bound in chains in a dungeon, at least not yet. But he is house arrest, we'd say, and not a house that he chooses, but he's kept in a location for security, and he's under arrest until the charges are brought officially, you might say, from those who had charges against him, or when they come from Jerusalem. I'll hear you more about it, and that's where we leave off. Oh, and the story continues in the next chapter and in the next episode of Walking Through Acts. Thanks for joining me for this one.